Budapest was the place to be, and the occasion was the Uefa Champions League final between Arsenal and PSG. Arsenal had returned to the Champions League final 20 years later after the heartbreak they suffered in 2006. This time they were hoping to go home with the trophy, and in their way was PSG, who was looking to win their second Champions League and twice in a row, a feat that was last chalked by Real Madrid in the 2016-17 season and in the 2017-18 season. Arsenal had gone this season without losing any game in the UEFA Champions League, and they were hoping that this perfect record would get them across the line. They couldn't have chosen a worse time to lose their first game of the season in the UEFA Champions League, as it ended up in a heartbreak for the Gunners of England. Hi, and welcome to Beyond the 90 channel with me, Aben. It's been a minute, I've been away, but I'm back. And today we're going to look at the match that just ended between PSG and Arsenal, which saw Arsenal continue their heartbreak and disappointment in the UEFA Champions League. Without much ado, I'll go into the starting 11 of both sides. So, PSG started in post with Sofonov and a back four of Hakimi, Marquinhos, Pacho and Nuno Mendes. In midfield, there was Joao Neves, Vitinha and Fabian Ruiz, and a front three of Desiree Doué, Ousmane Dembele and Kvaratskhelia. Arsenal, on the other hand, started with David Raya in post and a back four of Piero Hincapié, Gabriel Magalhaes, William Saliba, Christian Mosquera, and a midfield two of Miles Lewis-Kelly and Declan Rice. Advanced in front of them was Leandro Trossard, Martin Odegaard, Bukayo Saka, playing right behind their striker in the person of Kai Havertz. Now here are a couple of stats from the game for you. So at the end of the game, PSG ended with a 72 possession and Arsenal had 28. PSG had 19 shots in total and Arsenal had 5. PSG had 4 shots on target to Arsenal's 1. PSG completed 847 passes to Arsenal's 311. And as you can see, the fouls and the yellow cards, the red cards, the offsides and what have you. I mean, there were no red cards in this game to talk about. The referee's whistle blew and the game started and both teams looked to be sizing up each other. There wasn't much in the first 10 minutes. The game was a bit cagey at that time. But on the stroke of 11 minutes, there was a ball that Marquinhos was trying to clear that cannot off an Arsenal player, and the ball got played into Kai Havertz, who took the ball. He ran into the box of PSG. He seemed to have all the time in the world. It looked like he was waiting for someone to come across so that he could cross the ball for someone to make a connection to, and he just decided to go it on his own. The angle seemed like it was against him, but he found space above the head of Sofonov, who had gone down, anticipating the shot coming down, and Kai Havertz gave Arsenal the lead. You know, he was the same person who gave Chelsea the lead when they played Manchester City in the Champions League final. And so it looked like come at the hour, come at the man, and Kai Havertz was the man for Arsenal. Arsenal were in jubilant mode. The fans went ecstatic, and you know, in the UEFA Champions League in the last 11 years, the team that has scored first has gone on to win the Champions League. And so it was looking like Arsenal was going to continue this tradition, but there was more to come. So we wait and see how the game unfolded. After Arsenal scored the first goal, they dropped into a defensive block, or they dropped into a deep defensive block of 2 or 3, with Declan Rice dropping deep into the heart of the centre backs. And occasionally he stepped up forward to close down Dembele or close down Desiree Doué. But Arsenal formed banks of 2, sometimes 3, and they made sure everything that PSG threw at them was in front of them and not behind them. And so PSG, on the other hand, were trying to draw Arsenal from this shell that Arsenal had dropped into. So they looked to stroke the ball to the side, to the back, to the front, to the side, to the back, to the front, to tease Arsenal out of their shape. But Arsenal weren't having any of that, you know. And in this game also looked like nobody wanted to make a mistake. And so when the PSG goalkeeper picked the ball from goal kick, he played the ball out of the pitch to the side. And anytime Raya picked the ball from behind, there was no building from the back. He also went long into Kai Havertz, who barely had touches of the ball. But at this point, Arsenal wouldn't care because they were leading the game and everything PSG were doing was in front of them. Now, in the 15th minute, there was a corner from PSG that got cleared by Bukayo Saka, but the ball inadvertently touched his hand. It came off his body first and touched his hand. The referee waved it off. It looked like the referee didn't want to be involved in the final score, so he just let the game flow. He didn't take it. Bukayo Saka, apart from that, was mostly defending or helping Mosquera on the side of the pitch. To their credit, I'll give it to Arsenal's credit. By this time, they had played a perfect game. Like, they've played a perfect game. Piero Hincapié didn't get beaten by Dembele once. He made sure everything Dembele did was in front of him. Mosquera, on the other hand, also made sure everything Kvaratskhelia did was in front of him. And so PSG resulted into a lot of rotations. So you see Dembele move to the side, Kvaratskhelia move to the center, Doué move to the other side. They kept switching to move Arsenal's markers around because Arsenal were, as much as they were playing in a very deep block, they were also following the PSG players man for man anytime they got close to the box. So PSG adapted and they started playing this rotational game to open spaces and make sure something will happen, but it wasn't happening for them. They had a lot of the ball in the first half, so much so that by the 37th minute, there was a start on the screen and to the effect that PSG had completed 222 passes as compared to Arsenal's 45 at the time. Now, it didn't mean anything because even though Paris Saint-Germain had completed this much passes and Arsenal had completed less passes, it was Arsenal who came close to scoring in the 47th minute when Kai Havertz broke through again, but for the clearance and timely intervention of Marquinhos, it could have been Arsenal 2, Paris Saint-Germain 0. And for my money, I think he should have finished off the chance. I think the ball was there to be taken, but Kai Havertz was caught in two minds and he didn't make the right choice in the end. The game ended in the first half 1-0 in favor of Arsenal. There wasn't much to talk about. There wasn't much to complain about. Everybody was doing their game and you could tell that PSG will come back and pile more pressure on Arsenal. And Arsenal were ready to soak it all in. In any case, they are the best defensive side in Europe this season. So they were not doing anything that was far away from what they are used to. Now, the second half began in earnest and it was Paris Saint-Germain who were looking to level things up and then build on from that to go win the game. And Arsenal were having none of it. And so Arsenal resulted into some delayed tactics, which saw Christian Mosquera pick up the first yellow card of the game in the 46th minute. The referee was really trying to put his stamp on the game. And so Mosquera got a yellow card for time wasting. And then Saka followed up with his own yellow card. Even though in my eyes, I would say the Saka yellow was more of a 50-50 for me, even though the player who was on the other side came off worse. I think Saka went for the ball, the other player went for the ball, and Saka just caught the guy just by a bit. It looked more dramatic than it actually was, but be that as it may, Saka picked up the second yellow card, and PSG at this point were probing further. They had moved away from the boring game in the first half, and they were moving the ball a lot quicker now, and Arsenal were beginning to crack. In the 61st minute, Mosquera was beaten by Kvaratskhelia, and Mosquera got clumsy in his tackle, brought Kvaratskhelia down. Eventually, his foot touched the ball, but the referee awarded a penalty, then took it back, then had VAR review. VAR confirmed the on-field decision as being correct, and so the penalty stood. And in the beginning, we didn't know who was going to take the penalty from PSG. I'd imagine PSG was trying to get Arsenal guessing. Another thing to note at this point was that this season PSG had missed 9 penalties and they had different penalty takers. In fact, they had missed 4 of their last 6 penalties. Ousmane Dembele had also scored 4 out of his last 6 penalties. So, you know, Arsenal would look at this with some hope, but it wasn't to be. Dembele stepped up, dispatched his penalty. The game was a tie at this point. It was 1-1. And so Arteta was forced into making subs. You know, the subs epitomized Arteta's mindset at this point of the game. It was smart on him to move into the subs because Mosquera, who caused the penalty, was on a yellow card. The referee let this one go and didn't give him a second yellow. And I'd imagine if he had committed any further foul in the game, he would have had his matching orders. So to prevent Arsenal playing one man down, Mosquera went out for Jurrien Timber, and Martin Odegaard was replaced by Victor Gyökeres. Now, the Victor Gyökeres sub was a positive one, although in my eyes, I felt like maybe Eze should have been coming into the game at that point, but Arteta knows best, so he brought in Gyökeres, and it looked more like Kai Havertz was dropping into the midfield, but anytime the ball went to Arsenal's goalkeeper, it went long, and so Kai Havertz was doubling up as a second striker, if you may, and so Arsenal played with two men in front. They were trying to put pressure on Paris Saint-Germain, hoping that would yield some results for them. So the game became, back and forth, with Arsenal looking to get the next goal. PSG, on the other hand, looked to get the next goal as well. Both teams were trying to win the game within regulation time. Kai Havertz had a chance in the 76th or 73rd minute, which in my mind, I thought he should have buried the chance, but he missed it. So he had missed two chances at this point. PSG went the other way after a brief spell of Arsenal's dominance, and they also missed the chance. They actually hit the bar, and the game kept on ebbing and flowing, and in the 81st minute came some subs into the game. Arsenal brought on Madueke and Martinelli for Saka, and Leandro Trossard, and PSG also brought on Bradley Barcola for Guevara. I must say that the Guevara sub, I didn't get it because up until then, he was PSG's one of their most outstanding player. So I didn't know why he didn't take off Dembele, because in my eye, Dembele wasn't doing much in the game. Anyways, this Arsenal subs signaled that Arsenal were willing to go at PSG if PSG came at them. And lo and behold, in the 86th minute, there was a breakaway. Martinelli had the ball on us. Arsenal had a breakaway. Martinelli had the ball. He just had to lift his head up. He just had to make a very good decision, and Arsenal would have won the game. But Martinelli, in typical Martinelli fashion, scuffed the ball, misplaced it, and in stoppage time of first half of regulation time, 6 minutes added on, and in the 6th of additional time, PSG also had their own chance. Barcola broke away, he ran through. I thought he was going to square the ball or he was going to try a shot or something, but his shot went wide. PSG didn't win the game. Arsenal didn't win the game. At that time, Dembele was already holding his hamstring, so he was substituted for Goncalo Ramos, and both teams settled for extra time. In extra time, Martin Zubimendi and Eze came on for Kai Havertz and Miles Lewis-Kelly, and PSG also made their own substitution. We saw Marquinhos and Vitinha leave the game for Beraldo and Zbani. At that point, PSG had settled into a 3-back, and Arsenal were building the pressure on PSG. Now it was Arsenal's time to return the favor, considering that PSG had been the most dominant side the whole game. It wasn't to be. Both sides tried here and there. PSG had a brief spell, but they were not trying to score as well. They were just lobbing the ball here and there, passing the ball, just holding onto the ball, making sure they didn't make a mistake. At that point, it looked like both teams were settling for a penalty. Nobody wanted to make a mistake at that time of the game because there wasn't enough left to play. So the game moved into penalties, and who knows what penalty will bring. It's the roll of the dice, and it could be your day. Sadly, it wasn't the day of Arsenal. On PSG's side, Nuno Mendes missed his penalty, and Eze had missed his penalty as well. And in sudden death, Gabriel Magalhaes missed his penalty. I was really gutted for him because he played a very, very good game, but it wasn't to be for him. And coincidentally, both teams' players in the penalty takers, both teams whose left-footed players took the penalties missed their penalties in Nuno Mendes and Gabriel. Like, everybody who scored was right-footed. I don't know what that means, but that's what happened in the game. Now, here's my 2 cents on what happened. For me, I think both teams played well. I think it was more like a final. You know, they say finals are for winning, not for playing. As much as Arsenal set up in a defensive block, there is not one way of playing football. That was Arsenal's way. It nearly brought them the cup. It didn't. There's nothing to be ashamed about, apart from the fact that you didn't win the cup. But there's nothing to be ashamed about. They played a good game. They chose to sit in and defend and be compact. PSG chose to go gung-ho. In the end, both styles didn't win anybody the match in 90 minutes. It had to be settled on penalties. Now, on PSG's side, I'll say Desiree Doué for me, and maybe João Neves. I think they played very well. They played very, very, very well. They were the outstanding players. You could also mention either of the fullbacks, either of Hakimi or Mendes. But for me, for my money, I think João Neves and Doué played very well. If Kvaratskhelia had continued, I would have given him my man of the match on PSG's side. On Arsenal's side, I think Declan Rice played very well. He played a very good game. Like, he was everywhere. He was in defense, he was in midfield, moved everywhere. Gabriel played a good game as well, same as Piero Hincapié. Like, in extra time, Hincapié was playing with hamstring, but he soldiered on and then played to the end of the game. PSG deserved it. If Arsenal won, they would have deserved it as well. Luis Enrique has shown Pep what he has missed, because I think Pep should have won 2 Champions League with Man City. He didn't. Luis Enrique, on getting the chance as PSG, he's done that. And now PSG are the French team with the most Champions League. I don't think Marseille fans can taunt them again like they used to. Be that as it may, you know, it was a final. It wasn't as blockbuster as what happened in the semi-final between PSG and Bayern. I've seen people take a swipe at Arsenal for their style of play. Look, finals are for winning, they are not for playing. And Arsenal played their way, didn't bring them the win. It could have. So you make that whatever you want to make of it. But I think in the end, Arsenal played the way they played, PSG played the way they played, and it was a good game. There's little to no controversy to talk about. And who knows, has PSG begun a dynasty, or they could be stopped next season? Because if they equal that Real Madrid 3 in a row, it will be something. On the other hand, there's Arsenal, who I think they can make it to the Champions League final again next season. And I think if they do so, who knows, it could be their time. They are definitely going to be knocking on the door. You may never know. I mean, they could be 3 times lucky because they've lost 2 Champions League finals. Let me know what you think in the comments. My name again has been Aben. The channel is Beyond the 90 channel. Thank you, and catch you some other time.